for time's sake. So in terms of my standard debrief is just what were your biggest takeaways as a coach and a client, and of course always being mindful not to share other people's personal information or insights, but just more focus on your own takeaways. So yeah, who would like to jump in? Biggest takeaways as coach and client for debrief.
I'll go real quick. As a client, it was that the wheel uncovered things that I didn't consciously see in the same way as when I wrote them down. You know, in terms of which numbers were high, which ones were low. I would have thought they were all pretty even, and then certain things stood out as not being as high as the other ones, and I was kind of surprised by that, which is great insight. And then as a coach, it was just how nicely the wheel and ties into the action steps and then ties into the inquiry. It felt like a pretty smooth, not real smooth because I'm not very good at it yet, but someday I could see that it would be smooth. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. And you were with Kanika. Would you mind going, Kanika?
Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. And Wheel of Life, I think I sort of knew where I was, but I think the coaching helped me understand the link between two of them. So that was really good. And I think for once today, I could understand the be and learning questions on why they make sense. Because I tend to just move towards the action and have to really control and pass my time with the learning and being. I never understood the reason for doing those. So today was good.
Good. Yes, the learning and being light bulb. Awesome. It's hard. I was with you. Thank you. Who else? All right. Then I'm going to go with JC and Sarah because you're in my top group. Yes.
One of the things that I learned kind of as a coach was the way we kind of interpret different areas on the wheel differently.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah and I talked about space, and for me, I was thinking like my environment, and Sarah was thinking kind of like a mental space. And then we got talking about how those can like kind of interconnect anyway. But it was just really interesting to hear the way she interpreted it mentally, like as like a mental space, and I was thinking like, you know, my immediate surroundings. So that was really cool. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool as kind of the client, we connected it back to the core motivation types that we talked about last week. And that was one of the things that like I kept bringing back up. I was like, oh, it's because, you know, I fit in with like the perfectionist or the optimist group. And so that was really cool. Sarah kind of helped me walk through how some of my traits show up in almost every wedge of the wheel.
Awesome. Thanks, JC. Yes, you'll see as you learn more and more coaching concepts, you'll see how they stack like that and how they can interplay with each other. Awesome. Sarah, how about from your side?
Yeah, sort of similar. It was so much fun. Well, first, I just love how tangible this is. You know, it kind of makes things concrete and makes sense, and you can still explore and play, but you have something to play with. So I really love that. I thought it was neat how like we were talking about space and how that ended up connecting into all the wedges, you know, and then we kind of explored a little bit like, wow, like you need to make space for this, and how it sort of affects your growth or dynamic within each wedge. So that was really cool. Yeah, what else? I loved it. I thought it was great.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. All right, then we have Robin and Eddie.
Yes.
Okay, my battery is almost dead, okay?
Eddie with the battery dying. Go for it.
Go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great experience talking and understand people. You know, it's a great experience to be a coach and be a client. And I cannot say I have a takeaway right now because it's not. I didn't get nothing new.
Hmm.
Okay, but is great experience.
So nothing new came up for you in terms of looking at the wheel?
No, for me as a client, I know what I need to do, and I'm doing what I need to do as a client. For me as a coach, I didn't get nothing new until now because everything that I ask and was in my mind before.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Robin.
I found basically or discovered basically what Sarah and JC had discovered, where it helps you define a little bit of what that wedge is, define what fun is, and it just helps clarify a little bit more. It lets you move a little deeper into it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, what does fun look like? Why the number? What does that look like? And then there's also, you'll do vision recordings where you look at, if it were a 10, what would that be? So you can play a lot with the wheel in different ways. Awesome. Thanks, Robin. And Kellen, your takeaways.
Yeah, so I would say that in looking at the wheel and actually assigning numbers, which I had said I thought they were all kind of, close to being the same number, but actually there are nuances, and you can tease it out and see that, you're not really approaching all aspects of your life in the same way, and this is just a good tool to give you clarity on that. And then as far as being a coach, just the practice of asking those being questions, because like I said, I resist asking questions that I would have a hard time answering. So I love that practice.
Yeah. And you had such a great one. I was like waiting for it. I wanted the being questions so bad. And it was really, yes. And it was fun for me to think about. I'm like, oh, I really want to think about who I need to be to do this.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. So thank you for taking that risk and doing a great job. And for working with me tonight. I'm trying to think my takeaways. I think it was a really good insight for me too, to see those nuances. Cause at first I was like, maybe this isn't going to be a good fit. But it was really fun to see what came up. And so I think just also trusting the process, which can be very hard to do. And then the other thing too, one thing I wanted to share, that I mentioned to Kellen too, is not every tool is going to work for every client. I mean, the Wheel of Life generally does lend itself to a lot of insights and great things, but sometimes like if you pull in a tool and you think the client is going to love it, I've had clients where it does kind of fall flat, and it's just like, okay, well then we'll just grow from that, learn from that, and move on. It's growth mindset. So we don't take that sort of industrial model approach where you want everything to work for everybody. It's more of what tools and concepts work best for clients, and how can you strengthen them within that and build resilience based on what they learn from those. And that's something that I originally take from the academic life coaching program as well, and pull into wellness. So yeah, just some fun thoughts there. We have a few more minutes. I think there were a lot of the takeaways were really hit home on the core elements of the wheel in terms of like those nuances within each wedge, identifying and defining each one for each client, generating the learning and being, and letting the action flow from that. So it sounds like everybody did a great job with that. What other questions do we have? We have a few more minutes, so I'd love to open it up and see if there's any other questions.
Well, can we ever leave it up, or would you suggest leaving it up to the client to pick the 8 areas of his or her life? Whereas, some clients are a little bit more maybe, into spirituality, or I'm trying to think things off the top of my head here. And so would you ever let them just pick their 8 wedges?
You absolutely can. And with Kellen, I was like, hey, so what 8 would you pick? And she's like, well, I'm good with 10. And we're like, great, let's go for it. So it's more of kind of going with the client. That's how I tend to follow them. I also, when I use the wheel, I usually either have like a printout and use that with them. But I do go through what each name or what each wedge means and say, well, how would you like to tweak that? Maybe. So especially if there's one, I think in terms of the stress wheel of management, it's prayer and meditation. What would that look like for you, or how might you change that if it is more spirituality? or sometimes people change growth to spirituality.
Okay.
So yeah, I absolutely let clients kind of adapt it to them to fit themselves the best. Even like you did, splitting family into significant other and daughters or children. I even working with students, I say, you know, they might split into parents and siblings.
Right.
So, absolutely. Yeah, I think sometimes they, you know, if you have at least a list to choose from is helpful. Otherwise they might get a little bit, what do you mean? And it might kind of halt the flow of the session. So I think it's helpful to have a list to choose from and let them pick if that's the way you're going to go, rather than kind of freestyling. But still letting them own each wedge and define what they want to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah. But like that picture I showed you from the screenshot, that's, like I said, from my like freebie on my website. And I actually have 12. Yeah. Cause there's 6 on that one. And so I just have like 12 that I have them evaluate if people want to download and do it on their own and kind of walk them through the steps. So yeah, you can use it in so many ways. What else? Other questions? Is everybody pretty clear on that?
Do you find yourself?
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. Do you find yourself referring to the wheel over and over the course of a relationship, or do you have them do it again to kind of track how things have changed? I mean, you can choose one pie on one session and talk about something completely different the next time.
Mm-hmm.
So you certainly revisit it over time, but it might also change. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think is in terms of like assessment in coaching, I think it's a really helpful tool to use almost quarterly, depending on how long you're with a client. Like if you're not with them that long, I recommend clients do one quarterly just to kind of check in with themselves and make sure you date the wheel to look at how things shift and change over the course. And you'll see throughout the wellness class too, that we do use it in different ways. Like I mentioned with the vision recording, what would be true if each wedge were a 10? You know, what would you ideally want in each wedge? So we also revisit it in different ways than we do with the initial assessment. But yeah, absolutely. Feel free to draw on that. Or if they have trouble setting an agenda, the wheel is often a great place to start in terms of looking at the wheel, just to kind of get that creativity or those brain juices flowing on what they might want to focus on. All right. Well, that brings us to the hour. I just want to thank you all. It was very lovely sitting in and working with you tonight. I appreciate your time and engagement. And yeah, welcome to the EDU community. It's very nice to have you. And if I can help in any way, never hesitate to reach out as you continue on your coaching careers. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good
Take
day.
care.